All right, KISS Army, welcome to the KISSFAQ podcast. Thank you for letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a KISS-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope you enjoy. Welcome to episode 19 of the KISSFAQ podcast. Joining me today is Andrew, alivecatman, and welcome back, Joel, ludzil.
Thanks for having me.
And we've got a special guest today, Mark Slaughter. So, Mark, thanks a lot for giving us some of your time today. I want to congratulate you on your solo album, Reflections in a Rearview Mirror, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But I'd like to start, by digging into a bit of your history, and what brought you into rock and roll, what in your youth made you pick up a guitar, get interested in singing, and just, a quick overview for people who may not be familiar with you.
Well, when I was younger, I always loved music. I always found myself sitting in front of a record player. So it was just kind of a natural progression. I don't think it was like one day I just said, oh my gosh, this band changed my life, and I picked up the guitar or started singing. It's just something that I always loved. So that's kind of like when I was 11 years old, which is when I picked up guitar for the first time. That's when I really said, you know what, I want to make music. That in my mind, that's what I was going to do. So pretty much from about 11 years old forward, music has been my life.
So when did you make the jump from kind of like listening to music to, getting into a first band? I mean, when did you make that step? About what age? And, what was your first kind of band that you got active in?
Well, the first band I had was kind of obviously, KISS was one of the bands that was out at that time. It was very influential for us, but we liked a lot of the it was Boston and a lot of other things that were creeping in that were a part of it all. And I've always been just more so than bands. I've been more about songs. It's not like a certain band was like that band is the one that changed my life. It's more of a musical community than it is of a certain band. And again, it was all the bands who had songs that moved me. If it moved me, I was into it.
When you were younger, and obviously you started on guitar, were there ever any times that you're like, man, I'm really not feeling the guitar. Maybe I should start singing. Maybe I should start doing something else. Because I listened to one of your other appearances, and it kind of seemed like you started singing by accident.
Well, I was singing because it was like what I sang along with records, and since I was a little boy, and it's just something I naturally did. Guitar was that's one of those things you say, okay, I'm gonna beat up the ends of my fingers. I'm gonna learn this, and I'm gonna do this. That's more of a conscious effort than something you can sing in a frozen food aisle over at the supermarket. It's just something it's with you wherever you go. So that was really my conscious effort at that point. There were a couple teachers at my elementary school when I was growing up that played folk songs and played acoustic guitar, and I asked them, how do you do that? Or they said, well, we play chords and we do this stuff. And I said, oh, I could, show me that chord, show me this chord. And, the next thing I know, I was, playing guitar and singing. Then I got really, really driven more towards my guitar than really thinking about my voice, because it was more of an effort. You know what I mean? So, and I did bands. I had, several bands that I did. Excursion, for instance, had a lot of different versions of that band since I was pretty much about 15 forward is when I started that band. And, I ended that just prior to, I did Rose Parade, and then I went right into doing, Vinnie Vincent.
I'm glad that you mentioned Vinnie Vincent, because obviously we're a KISS podcast, so although we do want to cover whatever's going on with Reflections in the Rearview Mirror, we're interested in your history with Vinnie Vincent, which I heard one of your appearances on Three Sides of the Coin, and I think you do a really great Vinnie Vincent impression. But was there ever a fan moment that you're in there, you're playing with Vinnie Vincent, and you're kind of remembering back that you used to love KISS? Was there ever a fan moment where you go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here with one of the guys that played in KISS?
I think that more so than at that point, I think it was really more of, I got thrown in pretty much about a month and a half before they were going to be going out on tour. They had got the tour with Alice Cooper, and they were going to do the video, and then they were going to go right out on the road. So all of a sudden, I get this thing of going in and playing with the band, and then it was like, dye your hair, change this, do that, and then the baptism by fire opening for Alice Cooper in front of 11,000 people. That was, as a singer, it was a complete different scenario for me. But it was really cool. I mean, was I starstruck with Vinnie? I don't think I don't really get to the point where I go, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I don't really get starstruck, but I definitely had the thing of, this is really cool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was more of that than like, oh my God, I did this, I saw this, I saw you here. I mean, I had met Vinnie with a friend of mine, Pat, who is a big Kiss fan, and when they would come to town, he would go autograph hunting and meet him and say hi. And I had met Gene, I had met Eric, and I had also met Vinnie just walking around Caesar's Palace. In fact, there's a picture that I just posted not too long ago on my Facebook page of when I was playing guitar for Hamer Guitars. Paul Hamer knew he liked what I did as a guitar player and said, why don't you come play at my booth? And I said, cool. How's it work? And he goes, I'll get you a badge and I'll get you in. The only thing you have to do is just get down there and we'll have you playing at the booth. When people come by, you can play and hang out. And I was like, that's cool. So I ended up playing guitar at the Hamer booth, and then of course I walked around a little bit. But that's really when I met Vinnie as well. Was at that, and that was prior to us, even doing anything together.
These days before you hit the road with Vinnie, Mark, one of the items I've got in my collection is a full studio version of you singing Shoot You Full of Love. I'm curious about that, and whether you recorded, if you recall, number one, recording this, and whether you plan to do any other recordings, or was this kind of done as a possible single to integrate you into the band and get that out there for the record-buying public?
That wasn't an integration at all. That was basically the record label wanted to hear what my voice sounded like singing it. Yeah, so it was more like, well, what's this guy sound like? And so I had gone into the studio. It was a studio called RMS Studios with a friend of mine, Lou Castro, who was a guy I went to high school with. His dad owned a studio, so we went and recorded the vocal there. And Dana came out, and it was just the two of us in the studio. I did the recording, and then I guess the record label had decided between a couple other singers and myself, and said, you're the guy. And so it was kind of like just boom, all of a sudden my guitar went in the stand, and here I go.
Oh, that's really cool. So that song actually predates you even getting the gig then. That
right there is exactly that. That was as good as the audition.
That's unbelievable. That's a really good recording, by the way. But all of a sudden you're on the road opening for Alice Cooper. What was your rehearsal regimen with Vinnie and I guess Bobby and Dana? Getting ready for that tour.
It was very bizarre because Vinnie was more consumed with like getting his guitar parts and his solos right. So they were just kind of like in there, just full blown. I mean, the band was a very progressive band. I think it's very underrated progressive band of what these guys were doing. Bobby Rock is an incredible drummer. Dana's a lot better bass player than people give him credit for. And then there's Vinnie. And so you have three kick-ass players playing, and they're working all these parts out. And I was basically, instead of sitting in the room singing, I would go shut the door to the rehearsal hall and just go sing outside the door so I could just kind of, feel my voice out and everything else because it was so damn loud. I mean, Slaughter's a loud band, no different than how Vinnie Vincent was. It was a really incredibly loud, the way we did it.
Was there ever any plan for you, like, to strap on a guitar to help Vinnie out, and let him...
No, I don't think Vinnie ever wanted me to go near a guitar. The only time he ever really wanted me to go near a guitar is when we were in the studio and he was like, "Hey, Mark, how do you do that one thing? And how do you do this?" A couple little, things I did that, that he knew that I knew how to play, and some Eddie Van Halen stuff. I was a teacher, so I knew some of that stuff. So,
but wait, if Vinnie's telling you to do something, you got to do it in the Vinnie voice, though.
"Oh, Mark, can you?" Yeah, exactly. "Can you show me how to do that?" Yeah, exactly.
That just sounds wild, though. Vinnie Vincent asking you. I mean, I know you're a guitar player and you're a good guitar player, but asking you about like Eddie Van Halen type stuff, or some stuff that know.
It was different, but you know what? Again, I think the guitar player is just one of those things that if you're a guitar player, you're a guitar player, and you that's kind of how guitar players are. "Hey, dude, how do you do that one thing?" I mean, that's how you communicate, and it's the part of the dance. But it was really cool, and Vinnie he was an incredibly talented guitar player and on so many aspects. It's not like I showed the guy how to play. It's just I showed him a few things. No different than, I picked up a lot of things from him, obviously.
I just have to ask, because it's been publicized more than probably any of us want to admit, all the issues that Vinnie has had in the last moments. What goes through your mind when you hear about those types of things, if you want to talk about that?
You mean issues meaning what?
Well, there was an issue publicized about his court battles with KISS, or unfortunately how his supposed home in Nashville was found in a state of disrepair. Just unfortunately, you have this guy who was an amazing guitar player in the 80s. Unfortunately, now the only time he gets in the press is when they're talking badly about him.
Well, and again, as I've, because there's been a lot of questions about, Vinnie as of late, and I think that really what I've tried to do is clear the air of what I know and what I experienced and what I did as an artist with him. And again, I have no reason to slam his talents, and I don't think Gene or anybody else would slam the side of his talent. It's just in the merit of how he dealt with the public or people he played with in a band with. And that's and again, I don't need to go into it, but he's again. I'm still blown away with some of the stuff that he did, literally in a dressing room, and literally from Dave Murray and the guys from Iron Maiden when we were sitting around and he was playing stuff that still this day is one of the most unbelievable stuff that as far as copying like the Jeff Beck stuff, note for note. I mean, note for note. And I don't know many people who can do that, but Vinnie could. Jeff Beck's my favorite guitar player, period.
He had an incredible, musical background, Vinnie. I mean, Little Anthony, all the jazz and blues stuff he'd done in the 70s. So,
right.
That doesn't shock me too much that, Beck and Vinnie, kind of worked well together. But, Invasion performed Lick It Up. Kiss is still performing Lick It Up and I Love It Loud. So, Vinnie's songwriting's obviously, very key to that. When you guys are out on tour, with Alice Cooper, you guys are doing, and I don't know if you were on stage or not because I never saw you, a fusion speedball like jam, but yeah. That kind of leads into how did the set come together for that tour?
I think it was just kind of like it was one of those things of what was going to create the most mayhem. I mean, and again, Vinnie's idea and his vision for the band was to be as over the top in every way that we could be. And I think that, for those of of the people that saw Invasion at that point, it was over the top. And, you know, when I was just like this young kid, just literally thrown in the mix of it all. And, you know, and of course I felt, you know, very blessed and happy to be a part of the whole thing. But I mean, it was crazy, man. It was just like, you know, like the Boys Are Gonna Rock video. I mean, it was just like, let's just blow it all up. Let's not just destroy the drum set. Let's destroy everything. I mean, it was like, that was the whole mindset. Let's take this over. And there is a thing about that I think that carried through the band, you know, during the time I was there through it, is the band really went out there and did everything we could to try to kick ass and take names.
Was there ever any consideration to how many of these songs you could sing night after night? I mean, I'm looking at the tour itinerary. You did 6 nights in a row to start the tour with Alice, you know, and there's a lot of vocal acrobatics in those songs. How did you hold up?
Yeah, it is, and I think it's the one thing that the truth is physically the most challenging thing for me was to increase my my lung size, is kind of what I thought when the auditions and everything was going on. I was like, I've got to make it to where I can sing this, because Dana told me, he goes, look, when we recorded Robert, those verses were pieced together and punched together. In other words, they were recorded. There was like a line and then punch and then punch and punch. So there's really no breath. So it was like one of those things. Not only did I have to run around a large, big stage and, you know, in big concert arenas, but there was no breaths that were even in the original recording. So I had to go in there and sing a whole verse, you know, basically line for line for line for line, and just going for it. And that, again, I love the challenge. I love that aspect of it. And I think it shaped me a lot better to who I am as a musician to this day.
Would you have a favorite song that you performed that you'd like doing every night?
Oh, I used to love "Wanna Be Your Victim." I just loved the way that song was. The bass was cool on it, you know, and it was just really cool the way, you know, it started do 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 do, and then all of a sudden he opens up his volume knob and it feeds back. I mean, that's just rock and roll, man. That's Jimi Hendrix and all the old school cool stuff, you know.
Nice.
Most musicians, and I'm a musician myself, we don't even make it to one successful band. Here you are, you had 2 hugely successful bands. Was there ever any type of worry or any type of, maybe we shouldn't do this, when you made the transition from Invasion to Slaughter? And not for nothing, Slaughter was much more successful than Invasion, but obviously you didn't know that at that point.
Well, you never know. I think really what it comes down to, and that's one thing that we learned with Invasion, and in a roundabout way, in a funny way, actually. A gentleman had posted the pictures. One night, Vinny got overheated when we were when we were on the very last tour in '88. He got overheated, and he just turned to me and he goes, "I can't do the encore, Mark. Just go do it without me." And he didn't have to tell me twice. And I went and grabbed his double V, and I walked up and you know, it was like a bow tie to me because, you know, I'm a big guy. We played Lick It Up. And what I really realized more than anything, I mean, which the song has no solo, first of all. Second of all, it's a song. It is a song. And those are the 2 things that resonated to me. And the reaction that we had on that encore was probably better than what we had the whole evening. So, that being said, the power of a great song and being driven for the song value and not, you know, what and how many notes you can fit in, that's what matters, is the song. And I think that's really how that changed the face of how Slaughter was going to be. The template, let's say, of the songs that we were going to write was set right there.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to skip around a little bit, but I kind of want to bring up a question about Reflections in a Rearview Mirror. did you approach that with, let me just write song after song after song, or did you know immediately that you wanted to just do a full-length album and not really focus on...
I really didn't. I wasn't something I said, I'm going to make a record. I just started recording, and I was writing songs, and I just thought, well, either this is going to wind up in television, or this will wind up in film, or this will wind up, that's kind of the premise of where I started with it. And then I started writing with a couple people, and lo and behold, I started getting this collection of songs, and I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to throw a record out there. And, ultimately that's what I've done. I mean, the labels that we used to know of, especially in rock music, have pushed literally Steven Tyler to the point of doing country. I'm not...
And Bret Michaels.
Yeah, and exactly. But again, no diss to them, but I just really want to stay where my head's at, which is in rock and roll. That's what I do. It's not... I'd rather be the label and be in control of it and keep my art to where I want my art to be, as to try to conform and be something I'm not.
So is there going to be a Mark Slaughter solo tour, or will you pick right back up with Slaughter?
Oh, I'm literally on a flight tomorrow morning to go do a show in Wendover, Nevada with Slaughter tomorrow. I mean, I'll see Dana tomorrow, and we'll all drive 2 hours to, we do fly dates, so we fly in, and then if there's an hour or 2 hours to drive in a van or whatever that the casino or whatever provides, we just kind of drive in, do the show, drive back, hop on a plane. I'll be back here Sunday like it never happened.
While we're talking about touring schedules, I just booked my room on the Monsters of Rock cruise. It seems that these cruises are kind of where a lot of hard rock bands and heavy metal bands are starting to go. Is that something that you would think that Mark Slaughter solo would do, or is that something that you would see Slaughter doing?
Well, I mean, we've done it with Slaughter, and we're actually booked for next October, not this October, but the October following, in 16. We are booked on that cruise. So, Slaughter does continue to do those, and it is a lot of fun to do that. I mean, I do enjoy it, but and it's different. It's very different because you do a couple shows on the boat as opposed to just one show.
Yeah, I want to hop back to, one of my questions about your solo album, Mark, is when Tom Kiefer, Cinderella, put out his solo album, I immediately thought of you. I'm like going, when's Mark going to do this? I kind of see Cinderella hasn't had a studio album, I guess, since 94. Slaughter's last one was in 99. Was it did Tom influence you in any way? I mean, did you even know of his album, and did you start? When did you start thinking about it?
Yeah, I knew Tom was making a record because he'd worked with Michael and a lot of other people out here. I mean, that took him 12, 13 years to do his record. So I know he's been working on that a while. And again, that's part of him finding the sound outside of Cinderella. And, to me, again, I'm not looking to be a solo, like, I'm going to be a solo artist. I really always reflect back to, I mean, funny we're talking about Kiss, but I reflect to Paul Stanley. Paul Stanley goes out and he does his own records, but it's still Kiss, man, And I think that's the same thing with Slaughter. That's the configuration of the people and the excitement that's there. I love it. I wouldn't mind doing a couple solo dates if there was something that made sense. But right now, I'm really focused on, getting the music out more so than going out there and trying to do a solo career, because that's really not where my head's at.
Do you hope this leads to Slaughter hitting the studio again? I mean, do you have any hopes for that?
I would hope that, but I mean, you're dealing with 4 individuals who live totally different lives in different states, and to do that, it's an investment of time and our own money to actually get something out of that. I think Dana, he's busy with a lot of the stuff that he's doing with Vince and that stuff in his life itself. to where I don't think he's really driven to put that at the top of his priorities, because there's really not a outlet for music. I mean, even with what I've experienced on my solo CD, I talked to this label, I talked to that label, I talked to this distributor, I talked to these people, and I just realized, record labels as we knew it has changed immensely, and the side of being in total control of your destiny and you being a label makes more sense than doing it otherwise, because basically the product, if you go to a Best Buy or you go to Out and About, which is a mom and pop store for CDs, they're getting smaller and smaller with the amount of CDs that are in the rack space, and when that starts shrinking down, that means that there's less and less of a market, that they could literally be selling toasters instead of CDs. So it's becoming an online thing, and it's becoming a download thing, and that's just where it's going. And nobody's getting their panties in a twist on it. It's just that's the natural course of where the industry is going. And
that's a shame, because the download stuff is just feels so disposable.
I do not like the download stuff. I think that a WAV file is just, it sounds better than when it's compressed on an MP3.
Without a doubt. I mean, I bought your album off Amazon to give it a listen before, we talked today, but I've got a physical copy coming in from Japan, which seems to be the only place that still cares about physical music. So,
the only place I'm actually physically selling the CD is just through my website. That's the only place I'm selling it, because it's just, there's really no place to physically go and sell that. And again, it sounds better. It's a lot more personable. There's the lyrics in there. There's photos in there. I spent a lot of time making sure that the artwork, with the gentleman I was working with, they did a fantastic job. And it was a lot of time spent on this. This is not something I just said, I think I'm doing a record, and I just threw it out there. I spent some time, because I want, as a fan of all music, to have a product that is equal to what I knew and loved when I was first into it.
And that's part of the fun part of music, when we used to go into the stores and we discover stuff. I mean, I remember going into a record store. I was going to buy, Guns N' Roses, Live Like a Suicide. Ended up buying a Great White CD or cassette back then.
Well, and again, it was also part of the thing that the guy at Tower, or Sam Goody, or whoever it was at the register, said, "Hey, if you like this, you'll like this." There was a word of mouth about what was available and what the music was like, and you could talk about it, or they could play it, spin it, and you could hear it. I mean, there's a lot of that that is gone. I mean, obviously you can sample stuff on MP3s of, sample this album now, and it gives you 20 seconds, but you don't know which 20, 30 seconds you're actually sampling of the song,
Yeah, and then you can go out and buy just one song instead of buying the whole album, and, maybe, liking the whole thing instead of, cherry picking.
It's become a singles world as opposed to albums because of that.
So we're back to the 50s.
Kind of, yeah. We are in a singles world of, I could, write a song with Kelly Keegy from Night Ranger, which, is one of my friends. We could write a song, and I could go throw it up on iTunes, record it, throw it up on iTunes, and there's a single. And it's that simple to throw things out.
So I want to go back to Vinnie Vincent for, and into the second album, and All Systems Go, which I find that to be a far superior album. Number one, it's not as over the top in terms of guitar, so it doesn't give me a headache.
Right.
But number two, the songwriting is much more refined and consistent. Did you have any input in the melodies, in the songwriting for All Systems Go?
I think that everybody was adding on to what Vinnie, was his initial ideas, and you're dealing with, first of all, I was a guitar player and I have a sense of melody, so I had a sense of melody. He had things written a certain way, and I'd say, how about this? How about that? Well, let's try this. And, that's kind of how it went, but it wasn't like I said, I don't like this melody and this sucks or anything like that. It was more of just kind of like whatever was best for the song. It wasn't like a pissing contest. It was just like it was all of us working together to get the best product we could do.
And I think Vinnie said that he had guitars and solos removed from that album, yet it seemed so balanced. What's your take on All Systems Go as you look back? What's that, 1988, so 27 years ago now?
27, yeah, 27. Literally, it was released about 3 or 4 days ago. Yeah, 27 years ago. That time of year was edited because the A&R guy was just too over the top. So, basically they knew that they wanted to start bringing it back to a sense of melody as opposed to, how many notes you can fit in. That's where he had to go and redo things because the A&R, Jeff Aldrich, said, you got to bring these songs that we're trying to push, you got to pull it back a bit. And, Vinnie hated it, and that was where he really started getting sour with the label. And, I don't like these people, are a bunch of assholes, and I play the way I'm going to play. I'm Vinnie Vincent, and that was kind of the downfall of his relationship with the label. And, of course, to me, I'm like, whatever the song needs, that's where my head was at.
Mark, did you think that Vinnie Vincent became more trying to become a shredder or a guitar player rather than
absolutely. Absolutely. He has a sense of songs. He has a sense of melody. And he's a great writer in every side of it. But then it would be overtaken by... But then I'm going to be, it's all Pearlman over the whole top of this. In other words, things that didn't even fit in this genre, he would try to put things in that were just of speed, and I can do what the other guy can do better. And again, like a B.B. King or Jeff Beck or any of these guys, which Vinnie was very capable of doing any of the Jeff Beck stuff. But that's not how he wanted to be known as a guitar player. And again, that's his choice to do so.
Yeah, I think we all respect that, it was the Vinnie Vincent Invasion kind of becomes
right. And
the Invasion.
As I do too. But it's again, I think that was kind of again, the stepping stone into Slaughter, where it really wasn't about that. It was more about the songs and how people related to the songs and the soundtrack of our lives. It's like Kiss stuff. Ace was he's not like an over-the-top guitar player, but his every note that he played had meaning in it.
And that's one of the things that really strikes me in the transition from Invasion, you and Dana and Slaughter. You guys are songs-oriented, especially on that first album. And I'll own up and say I only ever owned your first album and the EP, the live EP. Uh-huh. I've just gone back and bought all the other ones so that I could catch up on where you went musically. But that album, that's incredible in terms of just being focused. Was that a lesson that you learned from your experience with Vinnie to focus on the songs?
And you know what? The thing is the songwriting time on that Stick It To You record was about 2.5 weeks. That's all that was spent on it. It was one of those things that we just knew what we wanted in the songs. We knew how we wanted to deliver the songs in a certain way. We knew the format that we wanted it to be played on radio and where it would fit in. We knew the bands that influenced us that we were going to, I'd say, let the influence continue into our music. It was a very conscious, very mindful way of doing a record. It's not contrived, but I'd say that there was very influenced by our musical environment.
And I got to ask you, does any of the material on Stick It To You date from while you guys were still in Vinnie Vincent, maybe working together on ideas, or was it all freshly written?
It was all freshly written. After the fact, I had gone back and, the first thing that I wrote for the actual Slaughter mindset was Burning Bridges was the first thing that I wrote. And then I had the idea for Fly the Angels. And I knew what the chorus was, but I didn't have the lyrics of the rest of it. So it was kind of like one of those things that was written down on pizza boxes and everything else that we could when we were doing the demo for the record label so that they could hear the songs.
So before we wrap up, I guess, the Vinnie Vincent side of this discussion, I've been asked to ask you about the introduction to Ashes to Ashes. That's the backwards section of Cooney's Memories of You, which, of course, Dana produced. What's the deal with that? What were you guys think?
Okay, it was this. It was Jeff Scott Soto and myself doing the backgrounds, and the two of us blended really, really well. I mean, he's a great singer, and we had done the background vocals that was stacked up and stacked up and stacked up. I mean, just tons of tracks of Memories of You, and basically, Dana just said, he loves Queen. And he said that would be kind of real Queen-like to throw in the front of that. And that's what it was. It was just that backwards.
And did Vinnie know that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
And also, I guess on the All Systems Go side of things, what was the deal with the tour? I mean, you guys went out with LA Guns, I believe.
Yeah, we were doing, it was interesting because we had, the tour before, obviously in '88 we had Alice Cooper and we had Iron Maiden. Those are the two bands we toured with. And then when we came back and did the record and we went out to do it, there really weren't any tours that we could jump on. So we decided to just go ahead and do, small theaters and larger clubs and stuff like that with just the band. And LA Guns supported that on several accounts. That was kind of hard. I don't think that Vinnie likes that type of touring, and it wasn't, what he would look at as successful because, here's a guy that played Rock in Rio to thousands and thousands of people, and then he's all of a sudden playing in clubs. I think he's looking around just going, how'd I get here?
Yeah, it would have been a bit like going back to his days.
Part of it. I'm sure it's part of it,
When you look at the image of the band from like the first record, was there an effort to kind of tone down the image from like All Systems Go? Because you can kind of look at photos.
Yeah, I wasn't too keen on it. I was like, it's just not going that way, and neither was Dana. And Vinny just, I think he liked the over-the-top thing, but, it wasn't cool. We tried to tone it in. It was a conscious effort. Yeah.
So, I guess final question on the Invasion. Do you have a favorite show you did with Vinny? One that just stands out in your mind as a wow.
I think that probably the most impactful show was probably when we were up in Seattle. It was the same thing with Slaughter when we played up in the Tacoma Dome up in Seattle and that area. Bottom line is, as much as the grunge area and that the music came from that area, man, those people rocked hard, and they were out of hand. I mean, it was crazy. We played the show, and I'll never forget. We finished, and we just tore it up. The crowd was just going crazy. It was awesome. And then about 2 or 3 songs in, Bruce Dickinson starts yelling at the crowd. He goes, hold on. He goes, you're all a bunch of fucking assholes. And I was like, okay, guys, let's go. Let's leave. I mean, it was like, meaning, it was just that out of hand. So again, that's part of their crowd, and it was part of what was going on, and we're not solely responsible, but love Maiden, love that stuff, and it was just a happy moment for me because I was playing with people who I dug, and we had a really good reaction.
Did you have a favorite between touring with Alice Cooper versus Iron Maiden?
I loved Alice. It's funny because both of them were favorites of mine. I knew their whole catalog. I talked to Alice about that several times. But which I like it very. There's a record that Alice did, not to get completely off the subject, but again, it gets back into the songwriting side of it, and that's how I'm driven as a musician, producer, etc. It was a record that he did from the inside that David Foster produced, and I asked him about it, and I said, I love that record. I know it's not like the typical Alice Cooper record, but I said there's something about that record that was just sonically, it was just so amazing. And he goes, well, that was Toto. I said, what do you mean Toto? He goes, well, that's before Toto was doing it. It's basically Toto who played on that record.
Right.
Lukather, all those guys, Porcaro, all them. And the guy who wrote the lyrics on that record, Bernie Taupin.
Right, Elton John. Right.
Yep, exactly. So you're dealing with a superior band, superior lyricist, and then you've got Alice Cooper. So I think that right there was something, getting into, it's always a underlying theme with me that the songs and the way the songs resonate in the heart is what's important to me.
That's really cool. Let's move out of the kind of the Invasion and Vinnie. For everyone out there, Mark did a fantastic interview. What was it, a week or 2 weeks ago with Three Sides of the Coin? And we don't want to rehash everything that you covered there. So everyone, I do advise you to go out there to threesidesofthecoin.com or YouTube and check out Mark's interview that he did with them, because there's a lot of stuff that we're not going to get into today.
Yeah, I'm coming forward with everything that went on there, and again, there's nothing to gain here. This is just kind of like, let's talk about it. You want to talk about it? Let's get it out there so everybody knows.
So check out those other podcasts, and let's move on. With one last Vinnie question. What's the biggest lesson you take away from him, from working with Vinnie? What was your biggest learning point?
I had a lot of things of what not to do.
Right.
I learned a lot of to-dos, but I learned a lot of not-to-dos. And I think one of the most important thing that I've saw people who had like Vinnie Vincent Invasion tattooed on their arm, and he just literally walked by and treated them like shit. And I think it was one of those things that I thought, wow, as a fan, that's not cool. And as a seeing that and seeing the hurt and talking to the person afterwards, I don't want to do that to anybody.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, let's dig into Slaughter a bit more. Stick It To You. You're opening up for KISS. How did you guys get that slot?
Eric Carr, point blank. He loved the record. He actually took the record to Gene and Paul, and then they liked the record, and then they watched the charts and they watched the MTV activity, and lo and behold, we got offered the first leg, as they call it, the leg of the tour, which is about a month and a half. We were offered that with KISS. It was pretty crazy because the band had never played live, and the first show we ever played was in Lubbock, Texas. And when we came off the stage after playing our very first live show, our record company president was there with a gold record, presenting it to the band.
It's amazing.
It's a moment that I can't. It's just like, you got to be fucking kidding me. It was like that type of a moment,
Slaughter was really, really rising fast at that time. And unfortunately, KISS really wasn't. It was KISS's biggest tour of the decade. Was there any interaction between you and KISS? Because KISS was this dinosaur band even at that time, and Slaughter was this really, really hot new band. And I don't even think, and Julian, you could probably correct me on this, but I don't even think KISS's album at that time, Hot in the Shade, was certified gold.
No, I hadn't gone gold yet.
No, I you know what? I don't think I just don't. I don't think of Kiss as a dinosaur band in any aspect, because I think that they had a even at that point they had a long history of a discography that was incredibly amazing. I'm not the biggest Kiss fan, and it's not like I lived my whole life. How would Kiss do this, But it was a great thing for me to see how these guys do it. I mean, they know their shit in every aspect.
Yeah. If I can interject real quick, Mark, my first concert was Slaughter, Faster Pussycat, and Kiss. I was in the third grade. It was May 15th, 1990. I literally just thought about it the other day, and so you were the first band I ever saw live. And so after that show, I went and got the album, and not only that, but I got it on cassette first, and then I got the EP that you guys released. And so for me, I kind of grew up listening to Slaughter, because it was that memory of like, man, that's kind of my band. And so at the time when I saw you guys, it was all three bands at the time had a massive hit. So Kiss had Forever, you had Up All Night, before Flight of the Angels came out, and Faster Pussycat had House of Pain. And so for me, as a fan, it was just cloud nine. I mean, all three bands were that hot at the time. Now, you talked about, that record, Stick It To You, came out. You guys wrote it in 2.5 weeks' time. Is there a certain track on that record that just stands out for you? When you first wrote it, you knew, wow, it's really coming along?
I think that, each track has a different, records are like kind of a human emotions. You have a happy song, a sad song, a party song, this song. That's kind of how you look at what you don't have in a collection of a body of a record. You know what I mean? You listen to AC/DC record, it's not like one of those things you're going to go crying in your beer about something. It's all, put your beer in the air and party down. I mean, it's just a rock and roll, straightforward, good time record when you're dealing with that. So there's different aspects and different emotions to different songs on that record. So I think that really what we were trying to do is to make it a well-rounded record for every emotional side of a human experience. Sad song, sarcasm, everything, it was really written in that side of it, of how it all fit together. At least that's how I see it.
Okay. I had read some possibilities that there was a drum machine used during that recording. Is that true, or is that Blas?
It's Blas. There's some supplemental sounds and stuff that are on there.
And you guys pretty much did the whole tour with Kiss, straight through to Eric Carr's last concert with the band. Do you have any favorite memories of that tour with the band? I mean, so many dates of it. I think it's like 127 dates, wasn't it?
Right. It was kind of funny because, Gene would say, listen, he'd say, like, Shannon's coming out. I don't want a bunch of groupies back here. I want you guys to just settle down. I don't have a giant meet and greet. I want you guys to go to the other side of the arena, and we would have like 300 people backstage. I mean, it was crazy, some of the shit that we did. But it was kind of the whole thing to us is like, hey, man, this is our time. Let's all have fun. Let's bring the party, to where everybody's a part of it. And I really do think that even the Kiss fans that probably were out on that tour or that, were there to meet Kiss or met us would probably see that and agree. We were really into it being a great experience for everybody, not just us.
So we've been pretty serious throughout this whole thing. What is the funniest story or the funniest moment that happened on that Kiss tour?
It's all kinds of crazy stuff that I'd say that probably the funniest to me is how Gene would always like start talking to Tim, and they'd be walking down the hallway. It's kind of more of a timepiece than anything, but Gene would have his arm around little Timmy, and they'd be walking down. It was like the Mean Joe Green, where he's going to pass on a Pepsi to him or something, But it was really, I think more so than anything, it was just a lot of good times, a lot of smiles, the crazy stories that are So I don't know if you guys heard me, but the bottom line is Kiss on that side of it when we were with them, they treated us like gold, and they didn't have to. And to this day, I think it was they're a class act, and there's on any side of it, whether people think that hey this is this or Kiss was this or that. All I know is that they treated us great. They were nice people to us, and I'll be forever grateful on that side.
And you also do a really great Gene Simmons impression as well.
I do it, and I've been around Gene long enough to know better. That's right. Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny when we were doing the video for Fly the Angels, just before we were about to go on the road. It was about 3 weeks before. The wardrobe gal. I was looking for a bomber jacket for the video, and she called up Gene, and he's got that bomber jacket. I used his jacket in the video, so I'm sure it's in his laundry list of all the different stuff that he's kept between the Kiss stuff. He still has that jacket someplace.
That's pretty cool.
Junior?
All right, so let's jump into your second Slaughter album. Did you guys get killed by grunge as well? I mean, we talked about what was it, Seattle, and that being one of your favorite memories.
Yeah, I don't think that we were killed by it. And I've been asked a lot about this, and it's the key is with it is there's a natural cycle that all music goes through. Whether it's, when it's the big band era and that turns into the 50s and the doo-wop and goes into the 60s, which is the Beatles. And I mean, it's just a natural thing that music goes through changes and goes through different stuff. Where it's at now, I don't know really where it's at this point. I think it's just about making your art and not worrying about where it fits, because the genres have stopped changing and it's just become, culturally, it's just a totally different thing.
Yeah, and when I say something getting killed by grunge, that isn't exactly fair. When people look at the Nirvana album cover, they should try and find the Love Gun. Kurt's collage has Love Gun on it, and obviously they play Do You Love Me? So, rock and roll is rock and roll. It goes through phases, as you said. But, how did you guys approach your second album? I mean, you come off tour, you start thinking about...
We had exactly a month off, and no more. And then we started writing the next record.
Wow.
So it was just... there was no time off, really. I mean, mind you, we were just out on tour with Kiss the whole tour, and then we were out with Poison. So, we were mid 91, and then it was it's time for us to do records. So we went in and wrote the record, got it finished, and released it in 92. There wasn't much of a break at all for us. I do believe that the Wildlife record had a little bit more of a live band aspect to it, as opposed to the first record.
And that was going to kind of be, a point. The title, The Wildlife. Does that sum up where you were? I guess, from what you've said of being on tour with Kiss, it was pretty wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was in the Wildlife, to me, it was more so than anything. What that song means to me is kind of where people were in their that's where our crowd was. That's what they were doing. They were in that whole mindset of let's get out and enjoy it and be part of the party.
So how did your mindset change in writing this album? Obviously, you guys grow as people as you move on through life, like everyone else.
Right.
But was it a 2.5 week job, or were you more consider that you need to have this type of song?
I mean, if you added up the amount of time in the actual writing of the song, it was. You're probably looking at the writing aspect for each song of the basis of the song. It's an average of probably 4 hours. But then when you get into the musical things of where it's going to go and the different musical changes and the things that I added, that's more time, because
it was an ever-changing thing. On one person, I'd rewrite, I'd replay. I'd replay the bass after Mark Gooden would finish up the drum tracks. I'd go, well, that's pretty cool, but it's a lot cooler what you're doing there, so I'll just change the bass around, and, a lot of that aspect was going on in the record.
On the first record, and also the second one, the Wildlife, each album features an acoustic version of songs. Was that more from the record company to possibly get those into top 40? Was that the band's decision?
It was something that, it wasn't something that we just really, it's something that we just thought, wow, it's pretty cool stripped down. We think that would be a song that could work being stripped down. Like Days Gone By on the second record was kind of, it's kind of more of my jazz guitar stuff than it really was any like, hey, let's do an acoustic version of it. It was more of just kind of a melodic rendition of the song. But The Flight of the Angels was certainly, one of the things that when we muted the drums and muted this and broke it down, I mean, it was a totally different song broken down that way. That's really what we were focusing on was the songs.
Okay.
So I guess before Days Go By, let's jump back to your current release, which I guess is, pretty important to make sure we cover everything about. You play everything on the album except drums. Who's Mark Gooden? I mean, what's your relationship with him?
Mark is a friend of mine from high school. We played in rival bands. And he was this drummer that I always thought was amazing. He kind of went away. After high school, we lost touch. He got into the corporate world and started working in other aspects of that. And, through social media, we ended up, and through friends, we kind of reconnected. And he said, I'm playing again, and I'm doing this, and I would, it's pretty cool. And I was like, that's awesome. And I said, would you like to work with me on the record? And he said, of course. And it's just that's kind of how it went. I mean, obviously I know a lot of drummers and I know a lot of people, but it was just nice to kind of revisit back where I came from. And I think that was the whole premise of this record to me, is kind of going back to where I came from and what has made me who I am as a musician, as a writer. And also, the influences, the simple influences of how this guy played drums. I wanted to bring it into the record, and he's phenomenal. He did a good job.
Yeah, it's good, solid drumming. You also have Bill Jordan on keyboards, and did you co-write "Don't Turn Away" with him?
Yeah, Bill wrote when we did the initial song. When we wrote it, I just kept his original keyboard track, and then I added keys over the top of it. But yeah, I met Bill through the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. He was one of the campers when I was a counselor, and we kind of stayed in touch afterwards. We became friends and stayed in touch. And afterwards, I went up to his place out in Jersey Shore, and we hung out, and that was really cool. But it was one of those things that it's just a natural, again, just writing a song, not really thinking about it, but we just wrote the song, and that's how it came to be.
What led to Gina Johnson doing the, I guess it's a bit of a duet for that song?
I kind of heard it that way. I sang the song, and then I thought, it sounds cool, but, I wish there was a girl who could sing on this thing. And I said it to Michael, and Michael goes, well, how about, Gina, she's amazing, and da-da-da-da-da. And that's his second engineer that works with him on, on a lot of these records that he was doing. She also works with Ben Folds and, as an engineer. And, ultimately, that's how it came to be. And I heard her voice, and I said, this is great. It'll work great. So it wasn't like something that it's just kind of a natural course. I think that's really what I tried to do with this whole record, is the natural course of events and how they unfold, as opposed to forcing it or, and not forcing it to be something it's not,
So the Michael you referred to as Michael Wagner, who obviously
Michael Wagner,
yeah, I mean,
exactly.
total legend. How did you get him to? He mix or did he produce?
He mixed the record. I had the tracks done. I reached out to Michael and I said, hey, I'd really like to get this thing mixed and da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, oh, I'd love to do it. And so I was giving him tracks in between flying out and doing Slaughter shows. I'd say, here's a track. And he'd say, okay, I got that one done. And then he went and mixed, like, the Tesla record. And he's like, okay, I got that done, and I'm ready for more songs. So it's kind of like as the songs were, as I could get it to him, and he had holes in the schedule, and we could work it through, is how it all unfolded.
Did any of the Slaughter guys want to be involved with the record?
I don't think it was. It's not like anybody that I physically said, "Hey, does anybody want to be, anybody for ice cream?" No, it wasn't that type of thing. It was kind of like, it was just kind of like I had it done. I had recorded every part and every aspect to it. It was kind of like, well, it's not really a Slaughter record. I'm not going to go put it under the band's name when I've done everything on it. And again, they do what they do, and they have a certain approach in how they play and do things. And that is the true aspect of doing a record that way, instead of, BSing and putting everybody else's name on it to try to get more money.
So I happen to love your guitar work on Baby Wants and Deep in Her Heart, particularly on this album. How do you approach that lead work, versus how Slaughter as a band records? I mean, are you just totally free, or are you thinking about it? How do you?
Well, the Baby Wants was definitely a very different. Was a very different way of how that song came to be. That midsection where the guitar solo is at was kind of a little bit different sound, and I thought I kind of rewrote that area because Mark was doing a kind of a Latin thing in there. It was really cool, and it just kind of turned it into a different aspect of where he took it rhythmically. So I changed some of the sonic things over, and then I played the guitar solo over the top of it, and it just kind of played itself. I didn't really okay, I'm going to do this and do this. It was just kind of like it's a natural way that I felt the song went, and I played to the song and not to, I think I really kept it in the context of what was right for the song. Same thing with Deep in Our Heart. I'm glad you picked up on that. It was just really letting the note hang and let it just fall. Give it a little bit, give it some wings and let the air catch it,
Yeah, for my limited musical vocabulary, I was kind of thinking David Gilmour on that track. So
yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think that's part of all that stuff is you give it space and you give it room and you just let the track kind of drone with it. There's a lot of, in Deep in Our Heart, there's a lot of orchestra and other stuff that I put on. It's really involved. It's a lot more involved than you can even hear because, you can only fit so much of the dam through the straw.
Yeah, that's right.
But there's a full orchestral thing in there that I played note for note. Here's the violin and here's this part and here's that part. But it's honest and it's cool that way. It's just honest and cool.
And I guess that's where Michael did a really good job. It doesn't feel crowded.
No.
All the tracks have enough space to breathe. I'm a big fan of the first song on every album. The importance of stuff like, Away I Go. I think that's a fantastic lead-off track. As an artist, how important do you think that first track on an album is now for setting the tone of where you're going? You don't have an A-side and a B-side. We used to have, first single, second single would be your A and B. How do you kind of handle that these days?
Which is hard because I still think that way. In fact, the CD that I have is actually, it's physically looking like a piece of vinyl. That was kind of the whole mindset. I really wanted to get back to that. I think it's very important for the first track to have that. And again, I really approached this like a vinyl record, which I really wasn't really a part of with Slaughter. We never had a vinyl record except for over in Europe. and also through the record clubs here. There was no physical vinyl that was put out because it was basically known as going away. And that was kind of hard because, I wanted the physical copy, and I was kind of like, I felt we kind of got cheated that way in the United States of not having the product that way. And so, that's kind of where I went with this record, is trying to take it to what I had missing,
When I was listening to the album just recently that you did, which is great, it seems like you had a chance to really expand more musically. But when I hear Fear Nor Evil, there's a song called Yesterday's Gone, Divine Order, and so there's a mandolin in that part. Well, it sounded like, with your new album, it seemed like you were able to do even more in that direction with mandolin. There's one part I think I hear xylophones.
Yeah, a lot of glockenspiel and all that. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's to what the song asked for. I don't think about it like I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. I think what does the song want and what does the song need?
Okay.
That's really where my head is at on it.
Okay. You think you had more creative freedom since it was just a solo album, rather than, man, what would have I written if I was with Slaughter, the band, or?
No, I think that I really never thought of it that way. I just really, for the most part, I was just what does the song need? What does the song require? What's going to make the song more believable and more and have more melodic structure to it?
So let's talk about the Japanese release, because obviously I've got that coming in the mail soon. Peace for Tomorrow is the bonus track on that release, and that's a 1991 demo. What can you tell us about that song?
Well, there's a woman that I knew that who's just a great lyricist, and she presented me with the lyrics, and she said, "Here's a song," and it was right during the right after the Gulf War. And it was just one of those songs that I thought emotionally and that I just needed to record. And I did all that stuff in the studio myself. But it was a demo, and it was, so it's not like something you go, here, this is the big track, or this is good for the band. And it really wasn't something I did for the band. It was more about doing a song. And the song never really, there wasn't an artist that was going to do it. There wasn't anything out that side of it, but I thought the message was cool, and I think that it said what I wanted to say and what MC wanted to say as well.
Right. So why don't we wrap this up, because we've had you on the phone for quite a while. You're heading out tomorrow to hit the road with Slaughter, right?
Yep, absolutely. Another rock show. We'll be over in Wendover, Nevada, and then back home after that, and then back out to play Phoenix, and then Tucson after that. That's our next flight date.
Have you had any feedback on this album from your peers or your band members?
Blanda really liked it. The guitar player, he dug it. He thought the songwriting was great, and he dug it. And again, I think that, he understands as an artist where I was going. And, Dana just doesn't, I think he looks at it as like what's left in this industry, because it's kind of, it's kind of imploded on itself in a lot of ways. And that where's the music business when there's really not much of a business left? I think that he approaches it a little bit in that way. Or what is it that somebody would care if there was another Slaughter record? It'd have to be something that was really a very monumental thing, as opposed to just going off and recording. A lot of these bands that from our genre, in my opinion, they record stuff, but a lot of times it's more putting demos out than actual records. I don't think they really put the extra time in it. I think it's kind of sometimes it's a money grab.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of money in it these days. If you look at the rates artists get for Spotify, if they even get anything. So, does this reignite your creative bug? I mean, do you plan on having other projects on the horizon?
Well, no matter what, I will continue to write and I will continue to record. whether it's with Slaughter, whether it's with solo stuff, whether it's with other artists. I think really where I think this record was good for me is just to say, to redefine and to fall back into doing what I love for the purpose, the love of doing it. It's not about a money grab. It's about doing songs that I think people will really emotionally get and understand where I'm coming from as an artist, as opposed to, of what this fits, and I can sell a zillion copies of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean,
it's just not that anymore. That mindset is just, it doesn't work that way.
Right. It's gone. Real quick, I came in just a little late there, Mark. Is there any recordings with Nick Menza on drums that you guys worked together briefly before Blaz?
No. He just was there in auditions and stuff, and a brilliant drummer. I just don't think that when we were doing that, as far as the fit of the band, I think that he was perfect for I mean, he could have worked very easily in Slaughter, but he was. I think he was great with Megadeth. I think he was great for that, for what and where they were at the time.
Okay. And who wrote the riff to Eye to Eye?
Which one? What are you talking about? Which one?
The opening riff to the song. Who wrote that?
Oh, down. That's just kind of it's just between Dana and I on that.
Yeah, that's a great riff.
It's just kind of, again, it was like, it's just the way that stuff just came together. We just put it together. It wasn't like, I wrote this, you did that. It was just like, let's get the song out there, let's get it to where it's right and where it connects to people,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it connected well with me. It was a great track.
I'm actually going to show my age a little bit here. I've actually never seen Slaughter live. I'm actually going to go this November when you guys play in Troy, Ohio. I'm only 30 years old, so I kind of missed the whole boat of everything. Doesn't mean I'm not a big fan or anything, but I really do appreciate the artists like yourself that keep putting out new music, because there's only so much I could go back and listen to what was done before. So it's really exciting and really fresh to me to see a new Mark Slaughter album, and hopefully maybe down the line a new Slaughter record.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, and again, I think that it is different, and look, music is basically the soundtracks for our lives, man, and it's just it all of it is it kind of takes us back to where we were and where it's just such a big part of, at least to me, the way I see it, a big part of who we are, and it takes us to those times, and I just love music, man, and I'm just so glad that I'm able to still make it and still be a part of whatever is left of this industry. It's more about just keeping the art out there, and whatever sketches or that people will understand or not understand. It's about making the art, and that's where my head's at.
If Slaughter never does another album, I got to tell you, Back to Reality is, in my opinion, one of your best records.
Thanks. It was that was very different than the other Slaughter records. The other, Stick It To Ya and all Stick It To Ya through Revolution was a lot of Dana and I. These are writing the songs, and when Jeff joined the band after Tim passed, we went into a rehearsal hall and we wrote the songs as a band on that record. So it was very, everybody's got their fingers in the pie on that record, as opposed to just writing songs and then everybody playing their parts on it. So in that side of it, I think it's very different. I love the record just like I love the other ones. There's, it's a different timbre, but I think it's very important and very instrumental where the band came from and went.
And hopefully it'll be available digitally at some point, because when I went back into your catalog, I couldn't find that one online.
Yeah.
So I gotta go down to my used CD shop and find a copy of that. So I look forward to checking it out.
It's funny how this industry and that side of it, if it's crazy what is available and what's not available, and one day it is available and then it's not available. And, last year at one point, Stick It To Ya and Wildlife was not even available through iTunes.
Wow.
Because there was a transition where Universal had bought EMI and they hadn't put it into their system, and lo and behold, it took a while.
Yeah, and of course, your last 2 albums were on CMC. I don't know what happened to them.
Yeah. Well, it turned into Sanctuary, and now Tom Lipsky, who, started that label and is over at, I think, Loud and Proud is where he's at now. He's, did that record with George Lynch. And I think they're just trying to define where the industry's going.
All right, so let's wrap this up, Mark, because you've given us a great interview. We certainly appreciate it. Anything you want to plug? I mean, you're out there. Obviously, Mark's new album is a great album for fans of rock and roll. Just go out and, regardless of the Kiss connections, the Vinnie connections, or whatever, go out and check this album out. It's just, good rock and roll.
Well, thanks. It's you know what? Here's the truth. It's just writing songs and putting things into song that I think needed to be, and again, it's just a natural course of events. I'm real pleased the way it turned out, and looking forward to making more music in whatever context it is. But so far, the support's been great. And people can buy the album on through my website, markslaughter.com, or they can go through the traditional ways of iTunes, Amazon, Google, and all that other stuff, and it's there. That's where a lot of people are buying things, but the physical products will be through the website or buying it from Japan or England or from Europe.
Fantastic. So, Andrew, Joel, and I, and the KISSFAQ community, we certainly thank you for your time tonight. And appreciate it. So we wish you the best. Have a good flight tomorrow.
You. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And you know what? To the KISS community, bottom line is that was such a big part of not only through the Vinnie Vincent days, but through the support that we had when we were touring with KISS, and certainly as part of the I should say the family tree that we belong to, and we're very proud of it. But I think that it's one of those things that. We don't take for granted, and we're very thankful for.
Awesome, Mark. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we wish you the very best.